Welcome back to another episode of Fully Stoked Podcast. I am your hostess, Sarah Stokes with Sarah Stokes Home Loans and Coast to Coast Mortgage Lending. I am so happy to be here, guys. By day, I am a mortgage loan originator. I'm a lender. I help people with all their home financing needs, whether it's purchasing or refinancing. But this is what I really love to do. I love to connect people in our community, whether it be in the Charlotte area or Western North Carolina, because you know I live in both places. And their expertise and knowledge would usually cost you so much money just to get around someone like Courtney Lucas here. But she's going to share this information with us today. So stay tuned. It's going to be awesome. So without further ado, let me introduce Courtney Steele Lucas with Steele. She's the founder and CEO of Steele Talent Solutions. So this is a recruiting firm that partners with small and mid-sized businesses to help scale thoroughly by hiring the right person.
Yes.
We're so excited to have you, Courtney.
Thank you for coming. I'm excited.
Courtney has over 13 years of experience. She's worked in corporate situations as a leader in lots of leadership roles and now entrepreneurship. She opened Steele Talent Solutions. About when did you open?
About 9 months ago.
Nice.
So we're still in our infancy, but doing well.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm so excited to have you here today. So through your firm, you act as an extension of leadership teams and you help companies bring structure and clarity. Gosh, so many of my friends need that for sure. And strategy to the hiring process, because if you hire the wrong person, you've just lost 9 months to a year of training and income, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very tricky. So you also are passionate about the human side of recruiting. What does that mean?
Very much so. I really do believe that it's not just about filling a seat with an individual within a company. It's truly about a good fit between both the candidate and the company. And there's also, recruiting, there's a process and not everyone gets the job. Right. And there is still a need to treat candidates with respect and close the loop and provide them feedback and information, which I think is maybe lacking in the recruiting industry right now. So,
and you have that like firsthand knowledge from when you yourself have even tried to find work, and maybe me too, not received feedback. Like, what was it? What could I have done better? What do I need to get another certification? What is it? Right?
Exactly. Which really was a big reason I decided to start my own company. I was going through the interview process and was just not enjoying the process. I was not getting the feedback or even just a response. And so I said, there has to be a better way to do this. And I also learned I didn't want to work for companies that weren't treating candidates well. And I thought, well, I'll start my own and be able to build something that I'm proud of.
And I love that you're targeting small to mid-sized companies because we need the help.
Yes.
We need the expertise that you have, clearly with 13 years of experience. And I think the human side is so important. I was listening to something, it was one of the masterclass on AI, and it talked about people now doing their whole resume using AI and then submitting it, but like looking at the job description. And there are thousands, whereas it used to be hundreds of applicants. Now there are thousands of applicants. They're putting in the job description like nonsense sentences. And if you as a candidate haven't read thoroughly and really tried and had that human piece, then you'll get kicked out automatically because their AI sees that you use AI to create or to perfect your resume and then the application process. So I think the human piece is so important.
It really is, because there are so many amazing candidates in the job market today. And it's a struggle to even get noticed and get your application and your resume through these systems. And I do think that, believe me, AI is great. I use it every day. There is absolutely a place for it. But I think when it comes to recruiting and giving individuals an opportunity, there still needs to be a human component, and someone still needs to be talking with individuals and reviewing resumes and not just looking for check boxes, really trying to look at the whole person and how they will benefit the company and how from a culture fit. It's not always just about, do you have a degree? Do you have 3 years of experience here? There has to be more to it.
Yeah. So not to take this into the AI world, but I was talking to my sister yesterday and she asked me if what I do, if she thought that AI was going to take over my whole role. And I said, Not anytime soon, because there's so many elements. Yes, there's sales, there's networking, there's relationship building, and AI can't do those things.
No.
So when you're recruiting someone, you are looking at all of that as well as what's on their resume and their credentials, right? And AI can't do that. So I think it's great. I think it's great that you're doing the human side of recruiting. You should definitely that's a big important thing, guys, the human side of recruiting. So tell us how you first got into talent acquisition.
So if you've ever talked to any other recruiter, I probably have the same story. We fell into it. Nobody really grows up thinking I want to be a recruiter. So I was hired at a company to build a legal internship program for their chief counsel. And it was within the talent acquisition department. And it was a really busy time for our company. And they said, "Hey, have you ever recruited?" And I said, "No." They're like, "Well, we need some extra hands. Do you mind helping?" And I said, "Sure, I'll learn something new."
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it. The company, we were hiring a lot of people. It was at a time where we were hiring a specific skill set that had been laid off because of the '08, the housing crisis. So I was in third party mortgage vendor work. And so we were hiring so many individuals that had been displaced, and they were just so excited to get back into the industry that they knew and, just be employed again.
Right.
And so it was just such a great feeling, and I loved it. I thought, wow, this is amazing you can really help not only a company get, be successful by hiring great people, but you can really change someone's life by helping them to get a job. And so I just loved being just a small part of helping someone get a job. And so, yeah, just kind of by accident, and who knew that this is where it would lead.
Right. So you started by building that program, and then they just kind of pulled you in. Same thing with loan originating. You don't grow up thinking, gosh, I want to be a loan originator. It's so much fun. You just fall into it. But all right. So at what point did you realize you wanted to start your own firm? Because you worked for other companies.
I did.
As a recruiter.
I did. Yep. So initially I worked in-house within a talent acquisition department with a pretty large organization. And then I moved to a small agency, kind of a boutique firm based out of Manhattan, and was there for about 10 years. And unfortunately, for lots of different circumstances, the company needed to make some cuts.
Sure.
And I was wrapped up in a layoff in the end of 24. And was interviewing at companies and just really wasn't excited, and thought, you know what? I want to build something that I'm proud of. I want to build something where I control who I work with, how I treat candidates. And, I think there was always a seed in my mind growing up that I would love to own something of my own one day. My mom has owned her own company for 38 years and been very successful. And I think without knowing it, that just really stuck with me all these years. And so when I decided I would do it on my own, I think her example was really there for me.
So that's fantastic. Now, hiring the right person matters so much. And so when I worked with my family business, it's a small company, and we did some hires, and the whole year was lost if that person left or fizzled or decided to be a stay-at-home mom or whatever. So can you talk about, how a great hire transforms business and how a bad hire slows everything down?
No, absolutely. So, I think especially for small to mid-sized businesses, the impact is a bit greater on a small or a bad hire or a good hire. The Department of Labor has come out and said a bad hire can cost a company about 30% of the person's annual salary.
Wow.
And so for a small company, like just easy numbers, right? You hire someone at $100,000 a year, that's $30,000 that you've lost now. And not only that, now you have to start over.
Yep.
Now you have to start the process over. And that also doesn't take into account the low morale that can happen within your existing team, the team members that possibly leave because of this, mishire that you've made. So the cost of a mishire is really great on not just monetary, but on a lot of different fronts. From a good hire, I think it's just so important. Any company, it's, you want to get it right. You want to bring someone in the company that is going to be a fit with everyone, that's going to add even, not just come in and be the same, but also add to the organization and bring a skill set that really pushes forward, revenue and growth. And I think for small businesses, especially, hires are one of the few things that really have an impact on revenue, growth and culture all at the same time. And so it's really important to get it right.
So why do you think founders and owners try to handle it themselves if it's so important? They just don't know, right?
So I think a lot of it's they don't know. I think there is kind of this thought, well, I can hire someone. I can throw out a job description and get some applications and just talk to people.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can, people do it all the time. I also think it's money. I think we all know that small businesses typically operate on a smaller budget.
Yes,
and so there's a lot of DIY that goes on, and not just recruiting, other functions from marketing to many different functions, because they're trying to be as frugal as they can until they get to a place where, they can maybe loosen the purse strings a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the amount of money that you would pay up front is so nominal compared to what you could lose by making a bad hire.
Or gain.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Can I ask questions about my specific
Sure.
job? Okay. So it's just me. I'm like a realtor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm my own brand. I work for a company. I hang my license there, but all of my leads are generated by me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just me, and I need an assistant. I truly do. I've looked into a VA overseas.
Okay.
I've talked to a few different companies. I've talked with some friends about, hey, I know somebody who's interested, and
Mm-hmm.
you could pay her this much an hour. And I'm like, well, I could do probably 20 hours a week, blah, blah, blah. But I guess I'm just scared to pull the trigger on either one of those, because I like data. I like research. I like statistics. I like to know, like, why should I hire this person? And my girlfriend's like, have you called her yet? And I said, no. And I need to,
Mm-hmm.
because if she's a good hire, it could help me grow my business. Right. But if she's a bad hire, then I think I'm just scared.
Yeah. It's a hard, right? Especially because if it is your own, it's your reputation, it's your brand, it's your money that you're going to be paying this person. And it's also uncomfortable if it doesn't work out to have to admit that and have to then maybe say to the person, I'm sorry, this isn't working out, or it causes you even more stress and then you end up doing more work. So it is definitely a stressful situation for, anyone to hire someone and bring them into the company. Because honestly, until the person comes in, you don't know if they're going to be a good fit or not until they actually are there. But I would say, the best way to do it is truly sit down and understand what you need and figure out really great questions to ask. Try and figure out ways to get to the idea of what their personality's like, if that's going to fit with you. Use AI. It's great. It's a great tool for those types of things. And just really have an in-depth conversation. And at the end of the day, if they answer all the questions right, go with your gut. And sometimes you do kind of have to, almost like going out on your own, taking a leap of faith. Sometimes you kind of have to take a leap of faith on a person. And, see, the other thing I would say that I think some people also have a problem with is they might get someone in their company, but they don't fully give them expectations or give them enough information to do the job well. And so I would say, if you're going to be bringing in someone right off the bat, give them expectations. Tell them how you want things done, because if you don't, then they're never going to be able to meet your expectations.
That's good. It's really good. So you got to be organized up front.
Yes.
So now, how would it look if I hired you to find someone to work for me? Can you find someone for 20 hours a week, or do you have like requirements where it needs to be a full-time position, et cetera, et cetera?
So typically I do work on kind of full-time, mid-level professional and higher roles. However, I'm definitely, part of what I love to do is help people as well. So if someone in my network is looking for someone and I could help them, I absolutely would be able to do that. And, whether that's just helping you identify qualifying questions, helping spread the word, reviewing some resumes for you from the very early onset, and then only giving you a certain amount. Because that's another thing I've noticed, that a lot of small businesses, like you mentioned early on when we started talking, there's so many applications nowadays because people can put in a job description and they can say, create a resume. And so you've got all of these resumes that you're going through, and that's time consuming. And you're best suited to be out there building your business, not looking at resumes.
So I'm thinking how you could help the single business owner like me, or a realtor friend of mine, or an insurance provider who just wants to hire someone part-time. So that's a lot of my network, my single seat groups, and not all of my other networking groups are like that, but that's a majority of a lot of them. So we're not mid-size, we're very, very small. So would you be interested in, and just think about this, I'd say yes on camera, but doing like a workshop, like for someone like me, here are some key questions, or here are some things you should think about. And, it could be 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever, and just give us the sort of the guidelines on how to do what we do. And then that would save you time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that would help you when we grow to be at a place where we could get your services.
Absolutely. I would love that. I would love to, kind of share some insights and just some tips to help, because I know if you've never done it before, some people think recruiting is pretty easy, but once you start it, it's a lot. And so, yeah, I would love to be able to teach a little bit of, process and have individuals put a process into their system in order to really hire well and fair. And that way you're treating every candidate the same.
That's great. I would love to do that. I'm going to write that down for sure. Thank you.
Perfect.
All right. So many companies don't have an internal recruiting infrastructure because they're too small. We've already talked about that several times. What most companies, what do they get wrong in the hiring process?
I would say probably the biggest thing is their rush to hire.
Yeah.
So they've put it off because it is a lot, and they have a lot of other things that they're focused on. And so until it becomes really painful, they don't start the process. And then when they finally do, it's immediate, and you need someone yesterday. And so unfortunately, people tend to then, the first warm body that looks somewhat good, they bring on. And a lot of times that just doesn't fit, and it doesn't meet the needs. And then you've got that mishire, like we talked about, and the cost to, not just financially, but your team morale is great. Absolutely. When that happens.
Absolutely. So what does it mean when you act as an extension of the leadership team? How does that look?
Yep. So I basically come in and really, speak with the founder or the hiring manager and learn about the business, where they're looking to be, what this person's position in that process looks like, what 30, 60, 90 days looks like, what they're really looking for, what are their non-negotiables. And then I handle all of the applicant, applications. I review all of them. I speak with individuals. I vet them for the role, and I only provide a very small curated list of individuals that fit exactly what the client's looking for. And then their time is only spent on talking to the best possible candidates, and then they can make a decision from there. And during that process, I'm organizing all of the interviews, coordinating all of the time, whether that's video, phone, on-set interviews, or on-site interviews. I'm, then help them with offer negotiation as well. And the whole time really just kind of managing the candidate's expectations as well, keeping them informed in the process, providing feedback. And that way, all the hiring manager needs to do is talk to a few people and then make a decision.
Oh, that's great. I can see how that would be incredibly helpful. Absolutely. For a mid-sized company, for sure. Yes. All right. So you talk about the best recruiters. They think about careers and company culture, not just filling roles. What does that mean, company culture?
So I think it's just what individuals are looking for in the individual. I know, like, one of the clients I'm working with right now, they're looking for individuals that are no ego. They want team players. They want hands-on. Oh, yeah. And so that was something very important to them. And so those are the types of questions that I work into my conversations and try and understand the person, not just from their resume, not just checking boxes, but trying to understand if they truly are going to be a culture fit. In the organization.
Do you ever look at things like DISC assessments, or do you ever do any of those assessments, or if they offer them?
If the client wanted them done, absolutely. I would absolutely administer those and receive the results and add that into their client or their candidate profile. Right. That hasn't come up just yet, but yeah, absolutely. I think that for some companies, those are really good. Mm-hmm. I don't think it should be used to disqualify individuals, but I think it's a good way to understand a person a little bit better when you're bringing them in, and maybe how they need to be managed or how they need to be provided information. So I think any type of information you can get to help the employee succeed is a really good thing.
Okay, so now let's talk about people who are looking for other careers, maybe, or maybe they could be, should be, would be looking for different careers if they had a little coaching. So, what should people do when they feel stuck in their career? A lot of people, you say, have outgrown their jobs because maybe, but change it feels very risky. So, what tips do you have for them?
No, absolutely. I mean, change is risky. It can be, but it's also a little exciting. And so I think that for I was unfortunately laid off, so I didn't really have this opportunity. But if I could go back, I think what I would have done is started to explore other options while I was still employed. And whether that's if you're going to go out on your own and start your own company, start trying to figure out what that looks like. I actually have networked with a number of individuals who are what they call kind of half in, half out. And so they're still fully employed with their organization, but they know they want to do something different. Yeah. And so they're having conversations, they're putting feelers out. They may even be doing some side work and kind of helping to build a network of clients so that they have that structure and, that foundation before they actually quit their job and move into full-time being an entrepreneur. Yeah. Which I think is a fantastic idea because most people don't have, a savings that can float them for 6 to 9 months and they need the insurance or whatever the reasons are that keep you at your job. But I think it's good to kind of start thinking about what you want, read some books, listen to podcasts of other people who have taken the leap and just talk with your network and try and figure out if there's a market for what you want to do. If there is, how do you get into it and start laying that foundation before you leave your job? That's great. So your network, that's a really important thing. So your network, you're in a lot of different networks, right? Yeah. So you're just networking. That's how we met, just a common friend or networking contact. I believe it was Lou. I think so. Connected us, and I'm so glad she did. So that is really important. If you don't have a network and you want to explore other opportunities, get in a networking group. Check it out, right? Yeah. And it's easier than it sounds. So I've been in Charlotte for about 10 years, but for 9 of those years, I worked fully remote for a company up in Manhattan. And so I didn't need a professional network. It was not something that I needed. So when I decided to start my company, I said, oh goodness, I really need to start meeting people. I need to figure out where to find these other professionals and entrepreneurs that I can network with and help, because I really did want to build my business on relationships and networks and not just a bunch of cold outreach. Absolutely. And so it's possible if you're wondering, well, I don't know anyone, everyone at these events are in the same boat. They're trying to meet people. They're trying to grow their business. And so many of them are just so wonderful and willing to share resources and advice and will have coffee with you. And so it's scary, but it's not as prohibitive as you think if you don't already have a big network. Yes. So you're invited to come to one of my networking groups the first Tuesday of every month. We have an open networking meeting. I was telling you about it earlier. It's at the Central Union Church of Christ. Okay. It's just, they're so kind to let us use their enormous facility. It's got all the great AV equipment and tons of seating and tables. And the first Tuesday is an open meeting. So it's unlocked. It's called the UC Now, Union County Network of Women Unlocked. And we have great speakers. So April 7th is the next open meeting. Sabrina Winters is going to be there. This will go out after April 7th. But if you want to check the website, you can go to myucnow.com. You can see who will be speaking the first Tuesday, and you're welcome to come. And of course, I've invited you personally because you meet as many people as you can, and maybe we can do a workshop with that group. Absolutely. There's other groups. There's Women Trusting Women out of the Charlotte area. There's Thrive, WNC, Women's Entrepreneur Network out of the Asheville area. There's the No, it's nationwide. The Beauty Boost is a fantastic one too. There's all kinds of great. The Scout Guide is a really great one too. But anyway, if you need some tips or anything on networking, feel free to reach out. And it's really not as scary as you think, because everybody there is there for the same reason. Yep. It's just they're feeling the exact same way you are. And that was something I had to learn. I had to say everyone else is feeling the same way. So just go in and just be yourself. And I think as long as you're authentic and you're yourself, the connections will just happen.
So that leads me to my next point here is like sometimes discomfort often leads to growth. And you've said putting yourself out there is part of your growth journey, right? So
Yeah.
are you naturally an extroverted?
I think most people would probably think I am. I think as I've maybe even gotten a little older, I've become a little bit more introverted.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. Because I think when I was young, I don't know if I just had no fear. I'm not sure what that was. But yeah. And so, working for a company for 10 years, working fully remote, not having to go out and about, I got very comfortable. And so, and I think that was another reason I really wanted to start the company, is that I realized I wasn't growing as a person. I wasn't changing. And I was like, I really want to enjoy learning again. I want to enjoy meeting new people and get kind of back to where I felt like the person I was before. And so it can be tough walking in and intimidating to walk into a room where you know absolutely no one, and just walking up to someone and introducing yourself and shaking their hand and asking what they do, and then selling yourself in return and saying, this is what I do, I'd love to talk with you. Yes. It can be a little uncomfortable because you never know how it's going to be received. Right. But like I said, most people are there for the same reason. Right. And they are just appreciative that you showed up and are honest and authentic. And, most people just really like to meet new people as well.
That's true. Yeah. So what advice would you give someone who knows they need to make a change, but they feel afraid to take the leap, whether it's because they're a little introverted or because they just don't want to leave the job that they've been secure with for so many years? What would you say?
I would say definitely talk with the people that you trust the most, get that support. Yeah. Support, I think, is, especially if you're a little hesitant and you're a little nervous to do it, having that support network, whether it's a spouse or a partner or a parent or a friend, can kind of give you that extra boost. And so I think seek out those individuals that will give you, good advice, and honestly, just do it. That sounds really strange, but
let's do it. No,
just find an event. Maybe it's one that has wine and that makes you feel a little bit more relaxed. Yeah. Or maybe it's a early morning with coffee, so you have something to do with your hand. Yeah. Just show up. And maybe the first one's going to be awkward and you're not going to meet a lot of people, but then the next one will be easier. And I think it's just because staying stuck and day in and day out, I mean, we spend so much of our time of our lives working that you kind of want it to be enjoyable.
Absolutely.
And so, just kind of get in your mind that you're doing this for you. You're going to step out and do something for yourself.
So have you learned anything new about leadership since you started your own business?
So that's a really good question. I thought long and hard about this one. I think for me, because I'd always worked within companies, I thought leadership had to be your boss, the top people in a company, and then how the people underneath them really kind of interacted. But what I've learned, because, it's just me and my company and I, don't have any employees currently. What I've realized is leadership doesn't have to be leading other people. It can honestly be being a leader within your field of expertise. You can be a thought leader. You can go into rooms and be a leader within, for me, I can be a leader within recruiting, and I can help other people. Like if we did the workshop, I can act as a leader in that, and people can come to me and seek, my advice. And so I've learned that leadership doesn't always come with people reporting into you. It's how you present the information and how you present yourself as a leader amongst, other people.
That is so good. I think at your workshops that I'll let you know. Well, if we have it scheduled, I'll put it in the summary and you can definitely attend. But being a leader in your field, that's so good. I've read so many things, and I take the master class. I watch those, and if you can just put yourself out there and speak on whatever your expertise is, it does position you as a leader, and people respect that more. So then when they're thinking about someone who needs, help hiring, or someone who needs a loan, they're like, oh, I remember, Sarah did stories on the mortgage rates and where they're going to be in the next week or whatever. So I like that. That's really good. All right. Well, what kind of advice do you have for business owners when hiring, is done well? Like what kind of advice do you have to them as a takeaway?
So I would say just don't wait till the last minute. Try and be more strategic about your hiring. Don't treat hiring as an administrative task. Treat it as truly part of your strategic plan for the year and get ahead of it. And if you do choose to, do it yourself and keep it in-house, make sure you have a process, a structured process that treats every candidate the same, that also makes it easier for you and takes a lot of you know, the work,
Right.
for lack of a better word, off of you. But I would also say, because it's so important to treat it as a strategic aspect within your organization, seek outside expert level help, outsource it. It's the price you're paying up front, you will get back tenfold by allowing you to focus on your business and continue to grow the business and do what you do best, while having an expert help you with the hiring. And then hopefully, you put in that great person that will be there for, for years, and you never have to then fill that role again.
Okay. So if someone wanted to hire you or talk with you about how you could help them, do they reach out to your website, email? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Either way, email is perfect. Courtney at steeletalent.com. My website is steeletalent.com. It gives a little bit more information about myself, about my services, about my philosophy in recruiting. I'm also on LinkedIn. You're welcome to, reach out to me there. But yeah, there's many ways you can get in touch with me. So.
Okay, great. And they can find out more on your website about the costs and the way that you structure fees.
The way that fees would be, we would have a conversation about that.
Gotcha.
So
depending on everything, right? There's so many variables. It would be hard to
exactly. That's a thing that I really wanted to provide. I didn't want a one size fits all. I really wanted to meet companies where they're at and provide flexible, because there's going to be some companies that only want a part of the process, or they want this, or they want that. And I'm completely willing to kind of adjust what I provide to give them the best service.
So just for me, because I'm very green at this, what is the process? If you could just give me the overview of like just your basic process, like how does that work? And you said maybe some companies would just want part of the process, not the whole thing.
So, if you wanted the nuts to bolts, so first would be a conversation, kind of learning about the opportunity, and then I could create a full job description for you, in coordination with the hiring manager. I would then post the job on LinkedIn. There's other sites that we could post on as well, which would, incur separate pricing, but there is a LinkedIn post is included in the fee. I would receive all applications that are submitted and review them for, kind of initial qualifications. I would have conversations with those individuals as well to truly vet them and make sure that they're qualified. And then each client receives a kind of a Google Doc that's tracking, gives them information about each candidate. It gives them where we are in the process, when the conversations are being had. I create an entire portfolio for each candidate that provides their resume, all of the answers to their application questions, and a synopsis of our conversation and how it relates to what they're looking for. Provide those all to the hiring manager. Once they decide who they want to speak with, then I help coordinate all of the interviews and run that process for them. And once they make that decision on who they want to hire, help with offer negotiations, and then with the handoff once the person hopefully accepts the job.
Wonderful. Okay. That sounds very thorough. I like that. All right. Rapid fire questions. Wait, before we go do that, do you need to be in person to work with a company, or can you work online with someone who's, across the nation in California or in Western North Carolina? Does it matter?
No, I work all over. I have clients in Texas. I have clients in Florida. So clients in North Carolina. So yeah, it's, recruiting is, very virtual. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Fantastic. All right. So rapid fire questions. Best leadership advice you've ever received?
I would say surround yourself with people that know more than you. So find other individuals, whether that's network, collaborators, whether that's people that work underneath you. Find the people who are truly subject matter experts in their field and trust them, and utilize, their their expertise to, really improve upon whether that's processes or, provide better growth for an organization, but really surround yourself by people who know more than you so that you can continue to learn.
I love it. That is really great advice. Biggest hiring mistake you've seen companies make?
Probably hiring the very first person just because you feel you need to put someone in the seat more than you're willing to wait to find the right person. Wonderful. I think that's the biggest.
Wonderful. All right. What is one trait you have seen with great employees? One common trait?
Yeah. I would say adaptability. I think, good. Especially in small to mid-sized businesses that, some of them are still operating in a very like a startup mode and things are changing rapidly. And so I think someone who can come in and evolve with the organization they'll be much more of a benefit to the company and they'll have a longer tenure if they can, really kind of ebb and flow with the changes that happen in those types of organizations.
Great. Right. One book or podcast that has influenced your career?
So I would say there's two. So one of them, which I think is great if probably any entrepreneur, but specifically written for female entrepreneurs, is a book called This Won't Be Pretty by Cassandra D'Alicio. And she basically chronicles her entire first year of entrepreneurship and starting her company. And she provides the mistakes she made. She provides lessons learned. And I think it's well written. It's a great template for things you should do, from very practical things to more even emotional things. So it's a great overview. And then a book that I recently read within a mastermind group that I was part of was The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. So that had me looking at my place in my company a lot differently. The premise of the book is that just because you can do something doesn't necessarily mean you should own a company to do it. And so, a lot of people say, well, I do this well, so I'll start my own business. And, that was, I thought to myself, well, I've been recruiting for this long. I'm great at it. I can start my own business. Right. And so this book really forced me to step back and realize that there's way more to it than that. And so that was a real eye-opening book to read. And it really helped me understanding how I needed to change my mindset and be more entrepreneurial and less of a technician.
I love it. That's great. So. All right. One thing you're currently learning.
Oh, business development.
Okay. Yeah.
So, that is definitely the biggest thing I struggle with, just kind of understanding how to structure it, how to be consistent with it. And so, so reading books and listening to podcasts on how to set a real business development structure and just trying to talk with other people that seem to be a little bit ahead of me in the process. So
that's great. I'm always learning that too. So
yes,
that's great. All right. So what motivates you in your everyday work?
So I would say from a professional standpoint within the business is definitely helping individuals find jobs. Our careers are so important to us. They really, people derive so much worth from their career. And I know, I think something like 40% of us will be affected by a layoff or a downsizing throughout our career. And so it's happening to so many great people. Mm-hmm. And if I can just be a small part of helping someone find a job, then that's great. But I also love helping my clients find people because I know how important it is to the growth of their organizations to have good people. Mm-hmm. So when I can kind of connect those two, it's great. Right. From a personal standpoint, I think for me, it was just getting the opportunity to grow as a person and build something that was for me and my family that I could really be proud of.
Yeah. So it's great. A legacy. Yeah. So what do you enjoy doing outside of work?
So spending a lot of time with my husband. We love to golf. I'm not good at it. Golf is a very hard game, but when you do make that one good shot, it kind of makes the whole day worth it. So, right. So we like to do that and watch sports. So
nice. I think every golfer says that.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Yep. All right. And what would people be surprised to learn about you?
Probably that I play poker.
What?
Yeah. Actually, and technically, I guess you could say I'm technically a professional poker player.
What?
Because I've made money I've actually earned money by playing poker. So that's probably a big thing that people would not think of.
Okay, I can't play poker with you. Okay. That's fantastic. That's so
that's
cool. Yeah.
my one little hidden skill that
Yeah.
I enjoy. So.
Well, this has been such a pleasure. I've learned so much, Courtney. Thank you for coming over and talking with me more. And I am going to see if we can put you on the calendar for a workshop.
I would love that.
Something
Yes.
really cool like that. And then once we get it set up, I'll put it in the summary here.
Okay, perfect.
And thank you for watching. Check us out next week.
Thank
See
you.
next time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.